Right now, moment of silence. If you remember the mother of Kathy Tarkington, who worked in the water office for many years. Her mother passed away last week, so have a moment of silence for her, remembering our thoughts. Thank you. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
City Clerk, the roll call for the City Council meeting of August 25th, 2014.
Councilor Junta.
Present.
Councilor Harquist.
Present.
Councilor Herzog.
Here.
Councilor Kinsey.
Yes.
Councilor Tontar.
Here.
Councilor Vogel.
Present.
Councilor Cameron.
Here.
Councilor Connell.
Present.
Councilor Cronin.
Present.
Councilor Eigenman.
Here.
Council President O'Brien.
Here. Late file item?
There are two late file items. One is a Cushing Park use application. It's communication number 6 you'll see on your desk. And there's also the mayor's comment, which is on your desk also.
What is the wish of the council?
Wish to waive the motion, to waive the rules and accept the late file items.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Move on. Public comment?
Thank you.
Pam Armstrong?
Pam Armstrong, 5 Buck Street, and I'm just asking the City Council to approve the use of Cushing Park on Saturday, September 6th for the use of a neighborhood potluck party. And you're all invited, too.
Thank you. Bill Harris?
Mr. President, members of the City Council, my name is Bill Harris. I reside at 56 Lamb Street. I'm here to support the nomination of Stephen Hines to the Waterfront Trust with 2 provisos. The first, I think it's important, it's vitally important that he resign from the Harbor Commission, and the reason is that the Harbor Commission and the Waterfront Trust have taken diametrically opposed views on who has the right to lease on the water side. The Declaration of Public Trust states clearly that leasing will be done by the waterfront trustees, and the city agreed to that and agreed that any changes should be made by amendment of the trust that hasn't been done. If he were to be on the trust and not resign, that will often lead to lack of a quorum. It takes 4 present, 3 on any, in favor of any substantive new issue, and I think that would be very important. The second is a technical issue, and that is the Declaration of Public Trust. I was a co-drafter with Hugh Doyle of the NRA. It requires that terms rotate. They go up to 5 years. There's 1 appointment per year. If there's an appointment and someone dies or resigns, the successor only takes the term of the person whose term is open. So in this case, the mayor nominated for 5 years, August 1, 2014 through August 1, 2019. This term, so the longest term, there are 2 openings. One is Cy Morrill, who resigned, and the other is Jody Frazier. I talked to Cy Morrill tonight. He confirmed his term. It was a 5-year reappointment, ran from January 1 to December 31, 2018. So the proper term is to amend the appointment to go from August 25, 2014 to end on December 31, 2018. And the appointee could be reappointed for another 5 years. So that's not the end of his service if he wishes to serve longer. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Lon Hatchmeister?
Hi, I'm Lon Hockmeister, 281 High Road. I live in Newbury, but I'm here speaking tonight on behalf of COW and with our president. I'm the vice president of COW. With the president not able to make it this evening, she's asked me to speak instead. And I'd like to speak on the issue of Stephen Hines, the appointment. Similar to what Mr. Harris has discussed, COW has significant concerns over potential conflicts of interest. Right now, as Bill pointed out, there is a difference between the Harbor Commission and the Waterfront Trust on ownership and who has the rights to do the leasing. And we feel that, as similar to what Bill said, that Mr. Hines should probably resign the one position. And we'd also like to request that maybe a special hearing is held where we have an opportunity for the City Council to question the individual on more than just the resume, but also on his feelings and how he feels the position needs to be filled. Position on the Harbor Commission, I think, is a lot different than being a trustee for the Waterfront Trust. That's all I have to say.
Thank you. Martha McManning, 210 High Street. Anyone from 210 High Street? Can't read the writing, so. Lynn Lafayette? Lynn Lanfear?
Hello, I'm Lindy Lanfear, 347 High Street, and I'm speaking to you this evening to ask the City Council not to outlaw plastic bags in Newburyport, because it's not clear that plastic bags are worse for the environment than paper, and paper will be used if plastic is outlawed. Also, during good economic times, Market Basket wrote a letter to the City Council explaining that the passage of a ban on plastic bags would hurt their business and cause them to lose customers and force them to possibly raise prices. Considering the poor economic position of Market Basket now, I'm afraid this action could be the straw that breaks the camel's back and force Market Basket to leave Newburyport. This action would be viewed as just another anti-business move by the City of Newburyport. Thank you.
Thank you. Kristen Wolf?
Excuse me. Oh, sorry. No, she...
Yeah, I'll take care of it. Don't worry about it.
Okay.
I'm running the show, not you. Okay.
Right.
Kristen Wolf?
Coming. Hi, I'm Kristen Wolf. I live at 1 Merrimack Street here in Newburyport, and I'm here to speak in favor of the ban on plastic bags. I'd like to just quickly go over some of the arguments that come up frequently to be against the ban, if that's the right way to put it. One of them is to keep government out of making decisions for us. Well, we've had government making decisions for us for a long time. We all buckle our safety belts now, and we don't use DDT anymore. What about convenience and comfort? Well, we use seat belts, and we don't have, we are required to use helmets now on motorcycles and bicycles. Recycling is the answer, that we should solve this problem through better recycling. Well, that's proven to not be true, and people who say that more effort should be put into education have not come up with the ideas behind the resources or the people that should drive this. And further, a lot of times, some of these same people are saying, well, you should change your efforts to do more recycling. I choose not to. So if you feel that recycling is the answer, please come up with a plan. I need bags for other uses, for wastebasket liners, or for dog waste, etc. There are other ways of doing this. There are many different answers. And one of the things I just wanted to sum up with is sometimes we do things or we change things that are inconvenient or perceived as onerous for the greater public good. As we learn the externalities of developments or actions, we need to make changes, and yes, regulations and legislation to have everyone participate. Just like we no longer allow smoking and we now require people to pick up their dog leavings, when we as a society learn, we as a society must adapt, and act appropriately and as individuals. And I just wanted to say that there are numerous countries around the world that have been going without plastic bags forever. And I've just brought some examples of different things. It doesn't have to be that inconvenient. It really doesn't. There are other types of plastic bags that stores can charge for if they so choose, if they decide that the budgeting is hard for them. And as far as convenience, a lot of people have been talking about how needing handles. There are numerous types of bags that come with handles that are paper. But even better than paper bags, of course, are
Okay, time's up. Thank you.
reusables.
Martha? Are you ready? Jesus.
Good evening. Am I supposed to talk? I'm Martha McManamy, 210 High Street in Newburyport. And I'm going to speak about a few things with regard to plastic bags as opposed to paper, because that issue seems to have raised its head recently. I think it's a paper tiger, because actually paper bags are nowhere near as bad as plastic. And in fact, when we've done some tests and I'd like you to pass these around if you don't mind. It shows that when you put a scale of 0 to 6, that plastic bags are way worse than paper on every single sustainability element. Plastic bags are like DDT or like lead paint. They should be banned. It is time to ban them. All environmental groups support paper over plastic. We'll take NRDC, we'll take National Wildlife Federation, we'll take the Sierra Club, we'll take Environment Massachusetts, a local group. All these groups stand very strongly behind paper bags and reusable bags as opposed to plastic. Okay? These particular bags are noxious, they're poisonous, and just like DDT, they should be banned. We've had paper in the market for decades, while plastic is relatively new and currently dominant. More than 2 trillion plastic bags have been distributed in the U.S. alone. Plastic is a huge litter problem. Sustainability must begin with products made of biodegradable, renewable materials. By the way, paper is biodegradable and renewable. Plastic, whether as litter or landfill, causes permanent damage, since plastic is a synthetic material that never degrades. Finally, every plastic bag is a vote for fracking, a new problematic technique that is artificially keeping the cost of plastic low right now. I feel that this is an issue that our community has had ample time to look into, to research, and to express our opinions on. And I think that the opinions have come out very strongly in the surveys we've done, the retail surveys, the individual surveys, and we have a strong support for this, and it would be foolhardy for us not to seize this moment and take these plastic bags out of our marketplace. Thank you.
Elizabeth Marcus, 10 Barton Street.
Hi, good evening. I'm Elizabeth Marcus from 10 Barton Street. I'll be very brief. I've shared my feelings with all of you most recently this morning about why I support the plastic bag ban. And I just want to take the time to thank everybody, all the city councilors. I know this has been a huge issue, and you've been getting a lot of emails and letters and have put a lot of time into working on the ordinance. So thank you very much, as well as the students and the Citizens for Sustainable Bagging, and everybody really who has looked into this issue and done a lot of research. Thank you.
Thank you. Conrad Willerman.
Conrad Willerman, 10 Barton Street. I'm going to talk about this on a sort of what I feel is the bigger picture. Look at the arc of history. This is the kind of issue that will eventually will be supported throughout the world. We will stop using plastic bags, and we will. I hope that'll be sooner rather than later. So I just encourage you to think about standing up and being a leader in what needs to be done to protect our environment and have a more livable world.
Joe DiBiase.
Thank you, Joe DBA's 15 Francis Drive. I'd like to thank the council and everyone that's put a lot of time into this. I know it's been a really contentious issue. I stand here opposed to the ordinance. It's not about convenience or government control or any of those other issues. For me, it's purely an environmental issue. Without being able to charge a fee for paper bags, there's no doubt that the use of paper bags will increase if this ordinance is passed. There'll be an increase in use of reusable bags, but Portland, Oregon, 1 year after passing a similar ordinance with a paper bag fee, witnessed a 500% increase in paper bag usage. We need to consider the entire life cycle of all bags, and I think I'm not in favor of plastic bags. I'm not in favor of paper bags. I'm not in favor of any kind of single-use bags, but if we're going to eliminate or regulate the use of plastic bags, the use of paper bags will increase, and paper bags are, according to the Government of Ireland in 2011, worse for water eutrophication, greenhouse gas emission, acid rain, ground level ozone, fresh water usage, solid waste production, and the consumption of non-renewable energy. In fact, according to the Government of Ireland and the Environmental Agency of England and Wales, paper bags require more fossil fuel usage in their production, manufacture, and transportation than plastic bags do. Just a closing quote from the Environmental Agency of England and Wales in 2011, paper bag has to be used 4 more times to reduce its global warming potential to below that of the conventional high-density polyethylene bag or thin film bag. But what's significantly worse than the conventional high-density polyethylene bag for human toxicity and terrestrial ecotoxicity due to the effect of paper production. Please don't pass this ordinance. It's worse for the environment. The cure is worse than the ill. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Leslie Echo.
Leslie Eckold, 36 Warren Street. First of all, I'd like to thank the City Council for considering this bill. I am speaking in favor of the ban on plastic bags. I'd like to point out that 95%, as I recall, of plastic bags never do get recycled. They go into our trash, and there they live for about 100 years. It doesn't make sense for a single-use bag that you're using for 15 minutes to stay in our environment for 100 years. The other thing I'd like to point out is that I think this is a change that Newburyport can be proud of. It's something that I think I'd feel good about, and I've noticed that when you go shopping, so many people are using reusable bags now. It seems to be a change that people are embracing, and I think that we can continue to move forward with this direction. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Michael Sales.
Michael Sales, 6 Fruit Street. I'm speaking in favor of the ban on plastic bags, and I'm also speaking in favor of anything that we can do to bring about the use of reusable and recyclable bags. Americans use about 100 billion plastic bags a year, and that costs about 12 million barrels of oil to manufacture them. Less than 5% of the plastic bags that are used in the United States are recycled. That's according to the EPA. Approximately 1,500 plastic bags are used by every American family per year. So that means like 75 of the 1,500 bags is being recycled. Who benefits from the use of plastic bags? Lindy pointed out that that Market Basket has pleaded to not stop the use of plastic bags. I was thinking about CVS, which is another big distributor here in Newburyport of single-use plastic bags. CVS had a profit last year of approximately $5 billion, and its profit expected for 2015 is about $6 billion. The president of CVS, currently, his name is Larry Merlo, received a compensation of $20.3 million for his work. So I think that's something to keep in mind when we think about the largest distributors of plastic bags and how much money they might be making for something that has such an environmental hazard. And I finally want to say that that the primary beneficiary of our use of oil are Middle Eastern states, such as Qatar, which is the primary funder at this point in time of Hamas, which is, as we know, engaged in a brutal conflict in the Middle East, and Saudi Arabia as another primary beneficiary of the way in which
Okay, time's up.
we use oil.
Time's up, thank you.
19 out of 20 of the highlights.
Juliet Walker.
Good evening, Juliet Walker, 13 Eagle Street. I have a few points to make. I've already sent some communications to the city council members, but I just want to reiterate those. I think other people here tonight have expressed other good reasons for supporting this. I am a resident of Newburyport. I have a parent of 2 young kids. Every day I see hundreds of plastic bags littering our roads, our landscapes, and our waterways. I don't think we need to overthink this. We're not the first to pass such a ban, and we certainly won't be the last. I certainly don't believe regulation for regulation's sake is a good thing. And I don't think that regulating plastic bags alone is going to solve all of our problems related to plastic in the environment. But the point is, it's a measure that will help clean up our neighborhoods, our landscapes, and our waterways. And the ban is an important first step, important part of a more comprehensive step to resulting in less litter, less trash in our landfills, and reduced use of oil. I support a ban like this because it could mean less plastic will end up in our environment, and wherever you stand on the issue, that should be an important fact to consider. Banning single-use plastic bags in Newburyport would be a good start, especially if you don't like the idea of eating plastic. Education alone can't be the answer. It's important to remember reduce, reuse, recycle is a 3-legged stool. One without others will lead to failure. By reducing plastic bags, we can encourage innovation to move on to better design and less waste. And someone will likely make money from that transition. This is a decision we need to make because it is an important step, and one in a community like ours that is so connected to the marine ecosystem, which is where so many of these plastic bags end up. Thank you.
Thank you. Amber Hewitt.
Hi, Amber Hewitt, 8 Monroe Street. I am here to passionately support the bag ban this evening. I am so thrilled to see where it's gotten to. This is an issue that grew near and dear to my heart when I was in college, and I did a sea semester and sailed from Tahiti to Hawaii, where we drew 2 water samples a day every day for 7 weeks. And the only consistency in every one of those water samples was tiny pieces of plastic, thousands and thousands of them. And most of them could only be seen under a microscope, so we're swimming in them every day without knowing it. And then seeing them in the fish and attached to the wildlife that we drew from the water, that this is a problem that is so much bigger than we know because of these tiny, tiny pieces. And it kept me up at night. I mean, on the ship and after, I had a year left of school, and I wondered, how are we not dealing with this, and how are we going to deal with it? We have such a huge problem on our hands that we don't really know that much about and what to do about. And so I graduated, and started working with the National Wildlife Federation, and where I work now, and I moved to DC, and I got to work with all these wonderful environmental groups for a little while, and I asked them all, where do you stand on banning single-use plastic? It was this little side passion that I wanted to figure out who I could partner with and who I could add my voice to, and I heard the same thing over and over, that of course and as we heard before, environmental groups support this strongly. Of course we support bag bans, of course we support bottle bans, and if we could organize in every city and town across the nation, we would take it on today. This is an issue that will be solved at the local level. It will be solved by the people in this room and the people in the room in the town next door and the town next door. And we should be proud that we get to be part, and to me, that was inspiring because it's something that we actually, it's a piece of so many of these problems that we need to address that we can actually eliminate our contribution to. So I know this has become divisive and tedious, but on the other side of it is this really cool accomplishment that Newburyport can decide as a community to publicly not contribute to this problem that we need to address. And we can add our name to this growing international list of communities that are deciding not to have their name, or not to contribute to this problem. We get to be a part of a solution. And I do just want to address, I don't know how much time I have, but I want to address the comment about
Not much.
I'll try. Paper bags using more fossil fuels than plastic. Maybe that's true. But my campaign at the National Wildlife Federation is our Clean Energy Solutions campaign, and we will only be using more fossil fuels to produce anything for a little while longer because a clean energy transition is happening. So we really need to talk about the end point, what we're making, and
Time's
what's
up.
leaving here. Okay.
Thank you. Sheila Tainter.
Good evening. I'm Sheila Tainter, 10 Dexter Street, and I agree with Amber that this is a wonderful time for our community to take a stand. But I know that one of the arguments against our ban is that we're just one community and it should be done at the state level. So why bother? There are two champions of banning plastic bags at the state level, Lori Ehrlich in the House and Senator James Eldridge in the Senate. And he has come tonight, and if he is welcome to speak, he could address the issues of where the state stands on a plastic bag ban.
You all done?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
I think that she was
Rick
asking
Tainter.
a question now.
We'll do it later.
Yeah.
Good evening, Rick Tainter, 10 Dexter Street. I'm here also in support of the plastic bag ordinance. The first thing I would like to say is that it's a shame that the purpose statement, which was in the original ordinance, has been stripped from the ordinance. That statement presents facts that explain why it is important to reduce and ultimately eliminate the use of these thin film plastic bags. As I understand it, the purpose statement was deleted because someone felt that the facts amounted to propaganda. And unfortunately, sometimes when the facts are against your opinion, a typical response is to label those facts as propaganda. We see that nationally with the climate change deniers and those who think that sea level rise is a hoax. And unfortunately, we also see it in other environmental issues as well. My second point is about the purpose and need for the ordinance. There's been a great deal of misdirection in the arguments against this ordinance. This is not primarily about whether plastic bags or paper bags or reusable bags consume fewer resources or less energy in their manufacture and distribution. This is not about whether plastic bags or paper bags or reusable bags are more costly to stores or to consumers. It is about how the remnants of plastic bags disperse and persist throughout the environment, and particularly the marine environment. This is how plastic bags differ most fundamentally from paper bags. The microparticles that result from the breakdown of the plastic film are like nuclear waste. They are toxic substances that will last not for years, but for generations. Obviously, it would be great to shift completely to reusables. But failing that, it is far, far better to shift to paper, which doesn't have such long-term adverse impacts, than to keep on with the current dominance of plastic. I hope you will vote in favor of the ordinance. Thank you.
Thank you. Molly?
Hi, Molly Ettenborough. Good evening, everybody. Thanks for... Hi, Molly Ettenborough, City of Newburyport Recycling and Energy Coordinator. Just to be concise for time's sake, I've prepared the following quick summary of the city's role in this debate. Over the past 5 years, a lot of people have come forward to the city and asking the city to do something about it. And it wasn't until a few years ago that the Citizens for Sustainable Bagging came forward, a parent and some students, that this actually gained some traction. They've been working really hard to get this going, and I've worked hard to facilitate the process as a resource for all concerned, not just them. After months of review, discussion, surveying, meetings, an ordinance was proposed, as you know, last spring, and it was sent to committee, where it's been reviewed and it's now coming back out. There are many points to debate, as we've all heard tonight. I think Newburyport needs to look at this as a litter issue, and because we're a coastal town, and we have waterways that have problems with litter and specifically plastic, that we need to look at this strictly as a litter issue, because there are a lot of debates between the plastic bag and the paper bag. I think this group has worked really hard to come up with an ordinance that will work, but I can assure you that we can implement whatever you all decide tonight for the ordinance, whether it's word changing or not. We can implement it effectively in the city. Thank you.
Thank you. Senator? Save the best for last.
Thank you, Mr. President, and members of the Newburyport City Council. I'm State Senator Jamie Eldridge from Acton, and really just wanted to be here to answer any questions that people have. As Sheila had mentioned, I am the lead Senate sponsor of the ban on plastic bags statewide. That bill, although it did get reported out of committee, it did not pass the legislature this year, and we, of course, are past our formal session. I think the main thing I just wanted to say very quickly is that I think sometimes there's a discussion, as Sheila mentioned, is the value of local governments, whether city councils or town meetings, taking a position or passing an ordinance or bylaw at the local level and the impact that has at the state level. And I would actually refer back to something this city council took the lead on really in the state a little over 2 years ago in passing a resolution to oppose the Supreme Court Citizens United decision. Newburyport was one of the first communities in Massachusetts to do that. I had the honor of being the lead sponsor of that statewide resolution, which passed. If not for communities across Massachusetts passing that resolution, like the leadership this council did over 2 years ago, I do not think that would have passed at the state level. So I think in a similar vein, if this council does think that this proposed ordinance has merit, I do want to assure you that it will have an impact at the state level, and it will send a message to every legislator, whether in this area or across the state, that this proposal and the benefits that I believe come from it would be something that would have a positive impact across the state. So thank you very much, Mr. President, for allowing me to speak. And again, I'm happy to be here as a resource for any answers to any questions you have.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
That's it for public comment. I don't have any mayor's comment. So move on to the consent agenda,
which consists this evening of the approval of the minutes for August 11th. There are no transfers. There are 4 communications. There's a block party on Payson Street, September 30th. That's in for approval. There's a letter to Governor Patrick from the council. It's a copy on Crow Lane environmental bond monies. That went out a week and a half ago. There is a firefighters local successor collective bargaining agreement. That's to be referred to Budget and Finance. And the 4th communication has been removed at the request of Councilor Cronin. There are no first readings of appointments.
What's the wish of the council?
Motion to approve as amended.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Move on to the regular agenda.
Second reading for the following appointments. Sheila A. Mullins, 7 Parsons Street, to the Trust Fund Commission until August 1st, 2017. Second is Doug Losey, 17 Alberta Avenue, to the Planning Board until August 1st, 2019. Third is Stephen D. Hines, 54 Ferry Road, to the Waterfront Trust Commission. There's a change in that expiration date to December 31st, 2018. There are 2 reappointments. Richard J. O'Brien, 41 Olive Street, Trust Fund Commission, April 1st, 2017. And lastly, Stephen Dodge, 57 Milk Street, to the Historic Commission until August 1st, 2017.
Move to approve collectively? Both collectively, the appointments and reappointments? Both collectively?
Correct.
Okay.
Second.
Any discussion? Councilor Herzog? Thank you, Mr. President. Just in response to some testimony we heard earlier tonight regarding the appointment of Mr. Hines to the Waterfront Trust Commission, he is here if he'd like to say anything, but my recollection from our last meeting when we reviewed his resume and his letter to the mayor was he indicated he would resign from the Harbor Commission if that's the will of the council. But I leave that up to himself and the mayor to determine the best action. Right. Any further discussion? Roll call.
It's roll call on the approval of all 5 appointments. Councilor Junta?
Yes.
Councilor Harquist?
Yes.
Councilor Herzog?
Yes.
Councilor Kinsey?
Yes.
Councilor Tantar?
Yes.
Councilor Vogel?
Yes.
Councilor Cameron?
Yes.
Councilor Connell?
Yes.
Councilor Cronin?
Yes.
Councilor Agaman?
Yes.
Council President O'Brien?
Yes. Communication 4.
Communication 4 is a letter to the Board of Health from the City Council on banning synthetic marijuana products.
Motion to approve. Second.
Discussion? Council Cronin?
Just very briefly, the mayor had worked with the health department over the past couple of weeks about the influx of synthetic marijuana products on just store shelves. New Hampshire had several incidents. So what I did was, as Chair of Public Safety, drafted a short to the point letter to the Board of Health, which is meeting later this week, expressing our support, if you choose to approve this, in supporting the Board of Health in working with the stores to get this off the shelves.
Thank you. Thank you for doing that. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Thank you.
Thank you. Communication 5, Mayor's update.
Receive and file.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Communication 6.
Special event application on Cushing Park, Saturday, September 6th. My understanding, Mr. President, is that Cushing Park is city property, therefore the approval of council.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Discussion? Council Cronin.
Yeah, this is not really under our new special event ordinance that was just passed. This is more of a block party. It just happens to be in the area of Cushing Park that is owned by the city of Newburyport, not the Parks Department at this point.
Thank you. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Move on to orders. Order 1.
Order number 1 is a resolution to declare a car-free day. Shall I read it, Mr. President?
I guess so.
Whereas the city of Newburyport is transit-friendly with biking and walking infrastructure connected to an accessible multimodal public transportation regional network. Whereas a special day to discover the city without a car can build community by educating us about our transportation options, environmental impacts, and other quality of life issues that are within our control. And whereas World Car Free Day is an annual celebration of cities and public life, free from noise, stress, and pollution of cars, and it is marked on September 22nd in 1,500 cities and 40 countries around the globe to promote environmental, financial, communal, and health benefits of using public transportation, carpooling, van pooling, bicycling, walking, and teleworking. Whereas the Massachusetts Department of Transportation celebrated a car-free week last year that resulted in reducing 214 tons of emissions, reducing 35,000 car trips, and reducing 478,000 miles. And be it resolved, the City Council commemorates World Car Free Day by declaring Monday, September 22nd, 2014 to be Newburyport Car Free Day for the 3rd consecutive year, and calls for a voluntary pledge from residents to be car-free 1 or more days every month. Submitted, Councilor R.E.B. Herzog.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Discussion? Councilor Herzog.
Thank you, Mr. President. Just 2 pieces. One is I've been in touch with the Mass Department of Transportation since submitting this, and they are doing a car-free week
for the second consecutive year, so that is happening. Secondly, I've also been in touch with the State Registry of Motor Vehicles. I was curious how many registered vehicles there are in the city. We have a population of over 17,000. It struck me after conferring with RMV, there are over 12,000 registered motor vehicles that are passenger vehicles. There's over 14,000 registered motor vehicles across all categories, passenger, commercial, municipal, and so forth. So I recognize that many people do work on Monday the 22nd and they need their cars. I'm not saying leave it at home, but maybe you can take the train, maybe you can take a bus, maybe you can do it on Sunday the day before. So thank you.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
To approve order number 1, Councilor Junta.
Yes.
Councilor Harquist.
Yes.
Councilor Herzog.
Yes.
Councilor Kinsey.
Yes.
Councilor Tantar.
Yes.
Councilor Vogel.
Yes.
Councilor Cameron.
Yes.
Councilor Connell.
Yes.
Councilor Cronin.
Yes.
Councilor Agaman.
Yes.
Councilor Bryan.
No. Order 2.
Order 2 is as follows. City Council of the City of Newburyport approves the mayor's supplemental budget in the amount of $31,490, broken down as follows. UMass Collins Center Consulting, $15,000. Budget visualization website, $3,000. Additional hours for fire and police executive assistants, $9,882. Payroll and benefits coordinator position, $3,608. Submitted Councilor Charles Tontar.
Motion to refer to Budget and Finance.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Moving to ordinances.
Second reading, ordinance number 1. It is the ordinance to amend an ordinance demolition control overlay district. Submitted by Councilor Eigenman.
Motion to approve on second reading.
Second.
Discussion? Roll call.
Second reading, ordinance number 1. Councilor Junta.
Yes.
Councilor Harquist.
Yes.
Councilor Herzog.
Yes.
Councilor Kinsey.
Yes.
Councilor Tantar.
Yes.
Councilor Vogel.
Yes.
Councilor Cameron.
Yes.
Councilor Connell.
Yes.
Councilor Cronin.
Yes.
Councilor Agaman.
Yes.
Council President Bryan.
Yes. Congratulations. Ordinance 2.
Ordinance 2 is also a second reading. It is the ordinance known as the medical marijuana ordinance. It is a number of pages long. It is the same as it was for the first reading, submitted by Councilor Eigenman.
Motion to approve on second reading.
Second.
I have to go.
Discussion? Roll call.
To approve ordinance number 2, Councilor Junta.
Yes.
Councilor Harquist. Yes. Councilor Herzog.
Yes.
Councilor Kinsey.
Yes.
Councilor Tantar.
Yes.
Councilor Vogel.
Yes.
Councilor Cameron.
Yes.
Councilor Connell.
Yes.
Councilor Cronin.
Absent.
Has recused himself. Councilor Eigenman.
Yes.
Councilor Bryan.
Yes. Ordinance 3?
Ordinance 3
I don't have it in my thing, so.
The 2 ordinances.
reads as follows. Section 13168, delete street, Franklin Street, extent no parking westerly side of Franklin Street from property line between 10 Franklin and 6 Franklin, running in a northerly direction to Water Street.
Move to refer to public safety.
Second.
Discussion?
Mr. President, this request is a result of the new city charter, and in particular, the aspect of the charter that allows citizens to petition us to take action on particular items. I've spoken to a number of the members of the Charter Commission, and they indicate that it was their intent that the council take an up or down vote on the matter. I felt after the hearing before Public Safety that it was incumbent that we get this before the council and fulfill what is at least the spirit of the charter. So I support referring it to Public Safety.
Any further discussion? Council Hageman?
Yes, I'm going to support this motion, of course, but I don't want to be taken as acquiescence in the characterization of the charter that any time a petition comes before the council, we always have to put it up for an up or down vote. That's a new concept to me. I don't know that it says that, and that's a whole other can of worms we need to discuss another time. Thank you.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Committee items. Budget and Finance.
Nothing, Mr. President.
Neighborhood and City, General Government, excuse me, nothing there. Joint Ed,
Nothing, sir.
License and Permits.
Nothing at this time.
Neighborhood and City Services.
Yes, Mr. President. Move to remove an ordinance to regulate the use and the retail distribution of thin film plastic bags as amended by the language that's at your desk.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Motion to approve with the aforementioned amendment.
Second.
Discussion? Seeing no discussion, we'll have a roll call vote then? No discussion, okay, Councilor Herzog?
Thank you, Mr. President. I assumed people would be discussing. I have some things to discuss. First off, I'd like to thank the number of residents who I've spoken with and who have communicated with me both inbound and outbound over the past several months and even several years. I'd like to state for the record, I do support the intent of this ordinance, but I have some troubles with it. I'd like to share why. I'd like to start with two statements of testimony. I can give this to the clerk if you'd like, Mr. President. One is an email I received last Tuesday, August 19th, from our Director of Public Service, Anthony Fenari. I had emailed him wondering whether any plastic bags were clogging any storm drains in the city, because that was a comment I continued to hear over the past few months. And Mr. Fenari writes, as I quote, "We do not have any data stating plastic bags are clogging any storm drains in Newburyport." I later spoke with our city engineer, John Eric White, who indicated he has been in our storm drains. He has not seen any plastic bags. Just like to state that for the record. According to the city, there are no plastic bags clogging our drains. Number two, earlier today I was speaking with our harbor master, Paul Hogg. I was curious if there were plastic bags in the waterways. That's another comment I continue to hear over and over. I spoke with Mr. Hogg, and he also emailed me back. He writes, as I quote, "Once in a while I do see a plastic bag in the river, but it has been nothing out of the ordinary. I have not had one complaint or have any issues reported to me about them yet this year." So we don't have any, according to our city officials, Mr. President, we don't have any plastic bags clogging storm drains. We also don't have any plastic bags in our waterways. So those are facts. Third, Mr. President, I'd like to remind the council that on February 13, 2012, approximately 2 years ago, the City Council approved a resolution, which I have in front of me. The resolution was co-sponsored by myself, Councilor Connell, and Councilor Cameron. The resolution speaks of Newburyport being a green community. It speaks for the, therefore be it resolved that the City Council encourages all property owners and business entities to seek and implement energy reduction programs in areas such as waste reduction, energy conservation, recycling, and alternative energy initiatives in keeping with the goals of a green community. This is encouraging, Mr. President. It's not requiring. And I fear that if we pass this tonight by requiring the regulation of plastic bags, we're throwing away this resolution, which encourages it. And the final piece I'd like to mention, Mr. President, and I'm not going to sing this because I'm not Councilor Kinsey, but Pete Seeger, This Land Is Your Land. Pete Seeger, he composed a song a few years ago that goes, as I quote it, if it can't be reduced, reused, repaired, rebuilt, refurbished, refinished, resold, recycled, or composted, then it should be restricted, redesigned, or removed from production. The if-then. We're being asked tonight to approve the regulation of retail bags. The regulation, which is, in Pete Seeger's words, a restriction. They are being reused. They are being recycled. They are being reduced. And I've spoken with many residents of all walks of life, of all persuasions. The majority of residents who I've spoken to, Mr. President, don't want it. As much as I like it, I'm here representing the people, and the people I've spoken to don't want it.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Councilor Kinsey?
Thank you, sir. First, I do want to thank those who have put so much time and effort into this idea, and the subsequent ordinances come from it. I don't take that kind of effort lightly. I also want to say that I have the utmost respect for my fellow councilors and their work on this. I have truly enjoyed the committee work, and although we don't all see eye to eye, we have remained considerate of each other's point of view, which yet again makes me proud to be part of this council. On to the ordinance. I did write at length on my council webpage about my travels to this decision, and I'll share a few points now. From the start, I wanted to vote for this. I wanted it to be the right thing and the right choice for Newburyport. I looked for every way possible to be okay with it. When I researched or interviewed someone, GMs from stores where bans have been enacted, or checkers at food stores, that gave me the, who only give the option of paper or reusable, not by mandate, but because they choose to, I hoped for an answer that would give me confidence in voting for this. But again and again, I was disappointed. I do acknowledge that plastic bags, among other unsightly trash, often litter the landscape and the waterways. They are visible reminders that we are a wasteful society, and we should feel ashamed by the way we take Mother Nature for granted. Removing any amount of plastic in and of itself will lessen the impact we have on our landscape and the waterways and the life therein. Secondly, reducing plastic bag dependency via an ordinance does send a message to surrounding communities and to the state that more legislation should be considered as a means to encourage or by force citizens to adopt greener approaches to living, thereby reducing our collective carbon footprint. But I must also acknowledge that, number one, this ordinance has not been overwhelmingly embraced by our constituents. I have not conducted a citywide survey, but if my inbox and voicemail is an indication, it stands about 5-1 as of tonight before I came to council, opposed to the ban. Those in opposition are quoting from journals and sustainability blogs. They are not making it about personal freedoms and inconveniences. But because I won't simply make this a vote for as a popularity contest, I did some research. An ordinance to ban distribution of plastic bags assumes that consumers will opt for reusables. I've been told that time and time again by proponents, but there is no way to ensure that this is true, as the city is unable to charge a fee for paper bags as a means of dissuading the public from opting for another non-reusable bag, the paper bag. And the only way to change this is on the state level with a fee. My biggest issue with the ordinance is that I fear that the vast majority of consumers will just take a paper bag or two, as they are often doubled, instead of the banned plastic bag, and entirely bypass the intended choice, which is a reusable bag. But I wanted to be sure that I was not making a mountain out of a molehill, so I did some asking. I chose to call Bob Vello, who's a general manager at Crosby's Marketplace. He oversees 6 stores, including Manchester by the Sea, who has had a plastic ban in place for about 1 year. We spoke at length. I asked him about the result of the ban thus far. I asked him directly, what percentage of your shoppers in your Manchester store are bringing or purchasing reusable bags? I asked him, and he said he estimates that 20% of the shoppers use reusable bags, and the rest are taking paper. And that was not the answer I was looking for. Crosby's also employs a program to entice shoppers to choose reusable. They give donations to local charities of the shopper's choice when they bring their reusable bags into the store. So a ban and an incentive at Crosby's, and it's still just at 20%. The substantial increase in paper bag costs, 11 cents per bag versus 3 cents for plastic, has been absorbed by the store along with many other mandates coming through via state legislation, making the cost of doing business going higher and higher. And this does need to be considered. Additionally, just to confirm the trend, I also surveyed checkers at Trader Joe's, where the first reusable Save a Tree brand canvas bag was introduced in the early 90s. They also encourage shoppers to use reusable bags with entries into drawings for free food. The checkers report that approximately only 30% of shoppers use reusable bags. The rest walk out with paper. The bags sit there doubled, waiting at the checkout. To just hope shoppers will eventually get it and choose a reusable bag without a tool like a fee makes this ordinance ineffective at least and irresponsible at the worst, especially when per Market Basket executives, it takes 7 tractor-trailer loads to transport the same number of paper bags that 1 tractor-trailer can transport in plastic bags. The transport alone causes a far greater effect on the carbon footprint. Furthermore, when choosing reuse or recycle, it is smart environmental practice to choose to reuse. A woman named Leila, I'm going to butcher her name, Cargola, a sustainability strategist, gave a TED Talk. If you're unfamiliar with TED Talks, they are a collection of dynamic speakers who present on a whole array of subjects. Presenters have won prizes such as the Nobel, Pulitzer, Oscar, Emmy, and the list goes on. She gave a presentation entitled, Paper Beats Plastic, ? How to Rethink Environmental Folklore. In her talk, she discussed the net environmental impact and how to lessen it. At the end of her well-supported and documented talk about life cycle assessments, which included material extraction to manufacturing, to packaging and transportation, to product use, to end of life, back to extraction, she summarizes her discussion with this. If you had paper or plastic, obviously reusable is far more beneficial. The paper is worse. The paper is worse because it weighs 4 to 10 times more than plastic. When we actually compare from a life cycle perspective, a kilo of plastic and a kilo of paper, the paper might be better, but the functionality of a plastic or a paper bag to carry your groceries home is not done with a kilo of each material. It's done with a very small amount of plastic and quite a lot more paper. Because functionality defines environmental impact. It's all about application. We must take into consideration the entire system and the entire life of the thing, everything, all the way back down to the extraction through to the end life. So, sorry, I'm wordy today. With all the aforementioned in consideration, I am not comfortable with passing this ordinance, as I do not believe it will be successful in meeting its goals. I'm also uncomfortable with passing it this now and amending it 6 months or a year later. The businesses in the city have to manage our mistake. In summary, a setter lent by the Sierra Club and forwarded to me by a constituent who supports the ban reads this, quote, paper is not the answer. It takes more than 4 times the energy to manufacture a paper bag as it does to manufacture a plastic bag. In 1999, 14 million trees were cut down to produce 10 billion paper grocery bags used by Americans that year alone, end quote. Now just imagine how much more energy and more trees will get cut down when people turn to paper, as they will according to current behaviors on a local level, if we do in fact ban the plastic bag. If I as a city councilor am to act as a leader, as I've been asked by many who support the ban, then I will. I will take the lead. I will lead my constituents away from using all disposable bags and towards reusable bags. But that is impossible in this current ordinance. If we are robbing Peter to pay Paul, then it isn't right. If we are taking away one problem to create another, and by all accounts of much of the research, a potentially worse one, then it isn't right. I know there are many facets to consider, competing interests, litter, waterway pollution, toxicity, sustainability, but I as a council need to consider this as a whole. I can't compartmentalize it. So voting this in as it currently stands, according to my humble but yet somewhat researched opinion, it just isn't right. So what are the 11 of us to do? We could just pass it with all the conflicting research, with knowledge that paper bags will be the significant majority's response and the environmental consequences therein, or perhaps they'll shop out of town and bring their plastic bags back to town. Or we could go back to the drawing board, sending it back to committee. Or we could take the energy that is behind this ordinance, the community members who want to see reusable bags used, and work with them in a way that will truly address the issue of sustainability, working with state legislators to consider legislation that moves people to choosing reusable bags and away from all disposables. And I'm on board with that. I just don't want to rob Peter to do it. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Roll call, I guess.
Mr. President.
Roll call.
I guess she's going to decide to talk.
Yeah, I won't belabor these points. I think we've heard them significantly in our committee meetings. We've heard from many people who spoke tonight and from other councilors. I might point out a couple of, I think, misinterpretations of some of my fellow councilors. Mr. Fernari did not say that they don't clog storm drains. He said we don't keep records on them. And there's a difference. Let me just convey a personal observation. During a rainstorm approximately 6 months ago on my own street, plastic bags with leaves combined to flood the street on the corner 1 block down from my house during a rainstorm. That's the kind of problem that we've referred to in terms of clogging storm drains. Have you seen the auger come out of the pits when they clean the storm drains? There's a lot of organic material, leaves primarily, sometimes paper, and plastic in every instance. So it does end up on the storm drains. I think it's foolish to pretend that it doesn't. The problem that we have here, I think, though, is that we're dealing with something that has been researched by conflicting organizations who perhaps, in some instances, have an agenda that they're expressing, but in most cases, environmental assessment is a matter of inputs as much as the type of analysis you do. That is, depending on the type of input that you go into it, and that was my business for 12 years, many of the outcomes will be determined by those selections at the start of your research. If you look at the University of Washington and their analysis of the other research that has been done on paper versus plastic, what they fundamentally concluded was that the inputs were so inconsistent that you were comparing apples and oranges depending on who it was you listened to, who it was doing the research, and what presumptions they made at the start of their research. So what are we left with? Well, we're left with what we observe. One day this spring, I drove home from work, the 28 miles, and saw 16 examples of bags waving at us from trees, stuck on guardrails, or fluttering down the sidewalks. Is that the way we want our community to continue to look? Let's presume that an average family brings home 4 or, let's say, 5 bags from shopping on a Saturday or on a Sunday, or whenever they do their grocery shopping. There's 7,000 households in Newburyport. Do the math. That's more than 30,000 bags on average each week that people are going to do the right thing with in most cases, but sometimes because of the aerodynamic nature of these things, they get away. How much longer do we want to put up with that? How much longer are we going to say that Newburyport is going to follow the lead of other communities and be passive and wait for somebody else to lead the way? I don't think that's the way Newburyport got to where it is today. There are some folks who have sent emails around today. I believe there were 4 out of the dozen or so I got today who were in opposition to this, and there was about an equal number in favor, who specifically cited the impact on business. So I went back again and looked at the response from the Chamber of Commerce survey, in which they had 171 responses. 59% of the merchants surveyed who responded were in favor of the ordinance. 39% against it. If there was such an overwhelming damage that we would be doing here to the commercial district, you would think that they would speak in a unified voice in opposition. That is clearly not the case. I do want to talk about the 2 elements, if members want to, that we're proposing to modify in this proposal. One reduces the maximum fine after a warning, and then 2 smaller fines. A 4th fine would be a maximum fine of $300 instead of $500. That was at the recommendation of the city solicitor to make it consistent with other city ordinances. And the other is to eliminate the language, and this is on the basis of the recommendation from the auditor, that would have designated a set-aside fund, a retained revenue account for the processing of this relatively small amount of money. We didn't think that that was worthwhile. So I hope that you will think seriously about what you've heard tonight, as well as what you observe, what you see when you walk the streets of Newburyport, when you travel on our beaches, when you paddle in our waterways, and think, what are we trying to do here? Are we going to lead? Are we going to follow? Almost everyone you talk to says, yeah, I support the environment. I'm an environmentalist. Well, what does that mean? I'll offer a suggestion. One way to define your support for the environment is to say, how willing are you to incur an inconvenience in order to prevent some kind of degradation of our natural environment, the water, the air, the soils? In response to how long will this take to really be obvious when we walk the streets or walk down the beach, I don't know. It was more than 15 years after the passage of the Clean Water Act in the 70s before appreciable improvement in our waterways took hold. But I think anybody who was alive 30 years ago and tried to swim in this river and compared it to swimming in the river today would say there is a dramatic improvement in the environment that has finally taken hold. We may not be the first, and we're certainly not going to be the last, but I suggest to you that as we move forward, as the senator suggested, sometimes legislators like to see what's going on out in the hustings before they take a statewide action. If we can help nudge the state in the direction of reducing the use of thin film plastic bags, I would be proud to say that Newburyport was one of the communities in the vanguard of that effort. I urge you to vote in favor of this. Thank you.
Councilor Cronin?
Okay, just, I'll try to be extremely brief. First off, one of the things that I did while doing my due diligence is I traveled down to Manchester by the Sea on 2 occasions. One was a Friday, one was a Wednesday. I don't know if that's any significance or not. I sat in the parking lot, and in that parking lot, I counted people coming out. 70% of the people coming out carried paper bags. 25% of the people coming out carried reusable bags. And 5% of the people coming out carried either a mix of bags or no bags at all. So even if you throw that, it was a 70-30 count down at Crosby's. Crosby's is definitely a little bit different than maybe a Market Basket because they do have a little to-go area in there. But I would like to point out that it's been said a few times about trash. And if we're going to vote on something, I think we have to vote on fact, and wherever that fact may lie. We incinerate our plastic bags. We don't recycle them unless they go back to point of purchase, as in Shaw's or Market Basket. So what I would love to stand here and suggest to this body is that we look more towards forcing retailers that choose to use plastic bags and force them in some way, shape, or form to accept returns, to post, and to require those retailers under pain of city ordinance and of fine to actively take back plastic bags at their stores. I think that's the first move that we do here, not an all-out ban. I certainly see more plastic bottles and cans, with a bottle bill, I might add, in the city streets than I do so-called single-use bags, which brings me to my final point, that the only study that I did come up with was 76% of all plastic carry-out bags are reused in some way, shape, or form by consumers. Usually around here it's with dogs, but that's another story for another day. Thank you.
Councilor Junto?
I'll try to be briefer.
Sorry about that.
Yeah. The goal here, as I understand it, is to get to a reusable bag, which you happen to have on the floor over there. But the unsettling fact when you look at the ordinance, you realize, and we all struggle with this, is the ordinance doesn't get you there. The ordinance from the test cities that you've looked at, whether they be Manchester by the Sea or Brookline, is this is an ordinance that pushes you to paper bags. So you have the data. You don't have to get into the numbers and all the different statistics and everything. You've seen this bill in action. It creates paper. It does not get you to your goal. It's my problem with the ordinance, quite simply. So I just don't think the ordinance is ready to do the job that it was set out to do.
Any further discussion? Councilor Hageman?
I'll try to be as brief as Councilor Junta. To explain my vote, I'm going to vote in favor of this ordinance. But I read all of the arguments, and I want to concede that paper bag use is going to go up. I absolutely, I think that's a sound argument. But I'm not making all of my judgments based on greenhouse gas emissions. I never did. Not when I signed on to this during the campaign in October and not tonight. I really do think that plastic bags are pernicious. It's not an outright ban. It's an attempt to cut down on the 100 billion a year we use in the U.S. And I do think, as Molly Ettenborough testified, because we're a waterfront community, you know, I really do look at this as an anti-litter bill. Is it perfect? No. And I think Councilor Cronin's suggestion about recycling is something that we might have entertained. We didn't. We're here now. But the bottom line is there's just too much gratuitous use of these bags in a seaport community, and I'm willing to accept the paper bag use increase. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President. I will be briefer than brief.
Good luck.
I was not an original sponsor of this ordinance. I thought it would be premature to sign my name without doing my homework. I've done my homework. I've done my research. I've attended all the meetings. I was a vocal proponent of modifying the original ordinance. I've spoken to residents in Brookline, Mass., and I've had numerous conversations with Ward 1 constituents. One even lasted 43 minutes, all about plastic bags. Plastics are one of the most common pollutants of ocean waters, and statistics state that only 12% of plastic bags used are actually reused. As the representative of the most valuable and beautiful natural resource in Newburyport, I believe this modified ordinance is fair, and I will be voting in favor. I also want to invite all the councilors who believe that there are no plastic bags in the ocean to volunteer their time to help clean up Plum Island.
They're all in Newbury, though. Councilor Cameron?
Thank you, Mr. President. I also, too, want to explain why I'm going to vote in favor of this. And as Councilor Harquist said, I suggest that those who get their inputs about the world through email questionnaires to people should get out and do some of the cleanups. I've done the Joppa seawall and Joppa flats there, and that's where this became an issue that was of concern to constituents and turned it into an issue that was important to me. This was one of those issues that, you know, I never really thought about much before this was brought by the citizens. It's a lot like potholes. When you're not a city councilor, you don't think about potholes until you hit one. When you're a city councilor, people are always talking to you about potholes. When people started to raise the plastic bag issue, I'd done a couple of cleanups at Cushing Park, had noticed it there in the weeds along the, where people park along the fence there. And when I did Joppa, they were just everywhere. A couple of quick anecdotes. A Daily News reporter about a month and a half ago was standing in front of the public library waiting to interview a high school student who was wanting to sell reusable bags. And I asked the reporter, "What are you doing here?" And the reporter said, "I'm here to interview a high school student who wants to sell reusable bags." And then I noticed the reporter leaning over and grabbing something in his shoe, and I looked down and it was a plastic bag that was flying by. You know, this is a problem. Rick Tainer hit it on the head. It's a toxin. It's a litter issue. That's the issue. Yeah, it'd be great if we didn't use bags at all, but you can only carry so much stuff. When you walk into CVS, as I did after one of these hearings about a month and a half ago, I had to buy one item. In true confession, it was razors, which sometimes I have the need for. It was about 9:30 at night. I put it down, they rang it up, and they started to put it in a plastic bag, and I said, you know, I don't need that. And as other councilors probably can attest, when we see people at Market Basket, we probably don't want to be seen with plastic bags, and you know, you end up carrying things, or you buy a few reusable bags. You know, there's an alternative here. Yeah, it's a ban, because a ban is the shortest point between, the shortest distance between 2 points, and it's just simpler that way. But if we can each pick up a few recyclable bags, neighbors who can't afford them or can't have them, we can spread that around. I'm sure we can do better than 25 or 30%. I actually think that's pretty good. It's a pretty good start for some communities. And we can get there. And again, we can eliminate a small problem The fact that we incinerate our trash is hardly comfort to me, because I don't want to be breathing in plastic, and I don't want to be walking in it when I'm on the beach either. So that's why I'm going to vote for this.
Further discussion? Councilor Tonto?
I'm not going to say I'm going to be brief, because then I'll have to apologize if I end up not being brief, and I don't want to, but I will.
No one else has, so you don't have to.
I have really been on the fence on this, in spite of the fact that I was a sponsor, all right, of the ordinance. The reason I was on the fence is because of my concern over the displacement of reusable plastic bags with paper bags. And I have to say, as many of the proponents citing one set of evidence and many of the opponents citing another set of evidence have reviewed, that the evidence is mixed. This is not the case where we can say definitively, all right, that either plastic bags or paper bags are worse for the environment, all right, in terms of their effect on global warming in particular. Right? And, you know, the point of science is to disprove hypotheses. It's not the truth. And at this point, it was very clear from reading all the letters that we are getting many different opinions on that. At the end of the day, I'm going to vote for yes on this ordinance. I'm going to vote yes on this ordinance because next week I'm going to be teaching environmental economics. And I'm going to start the course, all right, by talking about the fact that the world is facing a tipping point on its carrying capacity. We have to stop, we as we as human beings, critically, must stop thinking of production and consumption as a one-way street, all right? Where, you know, for the beginning of civilization, we just throw things away. We can't continue doing it. We can't continue doing it not because it's inconvenient or more convenient. We can't continue doing it because we are killing ourselves. All right? I too, all right, am very influenced by the fact that plastics don't degrade, and polyethylene bags do not degrade. The science on that matter is very much up in the air. They break into tiny little pieces, they get ingested. We simply do not know the impact on life on Earth of putting that much plastic into the biosphere. We just don't know, all right? Again, a principle of environmental economics is the precautionary principle. If there's a danger, and you don't know the result, you back off. You back off. Finally, you know, I am not in favor of doing things in one tiny little city, especially when people can go across the border to avoid having to use something other than a plastic bag. All right? However, we have the example of the state of California, all right, that just reported out of committee, and in all probability it will pass a statewide ban for 8 years, right? Community by community, city by city in California. They have been building up a consensus, all right? And California will be the first state, in all likelihood, to ban. I think it can happen in Massachusetts. I think it should happen in Massachusetts. So I'll vote yes.
Any further discussion? Roll call.
It's a motion to approve, I should be clear, Mr. President, with the following two amendments, deleting section 6.5.
The amendments have to be voted on?
It's part of the motion to approve, as I understand it. Correct, Councilor?
Yes, it was.
It was a motion to approve with the following amendments. But they were never spelled out, so I thought I would for this motion, that in addition to deleting section F of 6.5-47, it is also amending to replace the language $500 with $300 in 6.5-47D. So F is deleted, D is changed. And it's a motion approved, and the roll call goes as follows. Councilor Junta.
Yes. This is to delete this section.
This is on a motion to approve with these amendments.
All the amendments or the ordinance?
The motion to approve the ordinance
As amended, the whole thing.
Oh, no.
That's how they convince you.
Councilor Hartquist.
Yes.
Councilor Herzog.
No.
Councilor Kinsey.
No.
Councilor Tontar.
Yes.
Councilor Vogel.
Yes.
Councilor Cameron.
Yes.
Councilor Connell.
Yes.
Councilor Cronin.
No.
Councilor Eigenman.
Yes.
Councilor O'Brien.
No.
6 yes, 5 no. Motion passes.
Planning and Development? Roll up. Keep it down, please, we're having a meeting. Planning and Development?
Thank you, Mr. President. Motion to remove collectively items 2 through 4 5 from committee.
Second.
Thank you. The second? Second. All in favor? Opposed?
Motion to approve collectively, Mr. President.
Second.
Guess we should read them, huh?
Would you like me to summarize?
Sure.
First would be City Council authorize the acceptance of a grant of drainage easements substantially the same form from Springwell Investments and Huntsman Holdings on property located at Oleo Woods subdivision. Mayor is authorized to enter into any and all agreements. Larry Junta is sponsor. Second is an order of layout, Marrin Road and Richardson's Path. Here is public convenience and necessity. Require the laying out as public ways within the new subdivision. Marrin Road and Richardson Path, as shown on 2 plans. Laid out as public ways in accordance with the above reference plan, including meets and bounds. Submitted, Councilor Junta. Third, City Council acting pursuant to Chapter 4014 and Chapter 8221 hereby authorizes the acceptance of the deed in substantially the same form as attached from Springwell Investments and Huntsman Holding for the fee in a parcel of land known as Marrin Road and Richardson Path. Submitted, Councilor Junta. And lastly, City Council acting through Chapter 8221 and 32A hereby authorizes the abandonment and permanent discontinuance of a portion of Russell Terrace, a public way which is shown as parcels C, D, and E on a plan.
Having a meeting here, could you please be quiet and not have private conversations out there?
Prepared by Millennium Engineering, recorded Essex South Register of Deeds, Plan Book 430, Plan 16. As indicated on the above referenced plan, said parcels shall be conveyed and added to the adjoining properties. Submitted, Councilor Junta. And those are the 4.
Thank you, Mr. President. If the President would indulge me, Mr. Port could explain this better than I did about planning and development. 2 of us met earlier this evening and approved this 2-0. And basically, these are kind of final touches on the Oleo Woods subdivision.
Thank you.
We approved these collectively 2-0. There is a small addition that I should have mentioned before making the motion, and I could change that into the form of an amendment. So that the first of those orders, it's listed number 2 in our packet, but it actually says order, it said order 3 when it was in the original. And we did add and hand out all the maps and the additional deeds, etc. So it's we wanted to add three words, which are on that first one, which is called order number 3, August 11th. After on the second line where it says grant of drainage easements, simply add in public infrastructure, comma. So if that amendment is acceptable to the council, and perhaps some support, can just kind of run it through it.
Thank you. Andrew Port, Planning Director. As probably most of you know, if you've been out there to see the Oleo subdivision, it's a very, very well done project. We received a conservation restriction on a sizable piece of open space. There's some affordable housing in there. The houses look great. The developer's done a good job, has completed the project. All city departments have signed off on the work that's been involved, Public Services Department inclusive, and the consultant for the Planning Board has signed off on the work. Planning Board has asked that the acceptance be done by the City Council prior to returning the excess funds held by the Planning Board to the developer. We recommend, both as an office and the Planning Board, we recommend acceptance of the ways and discontinuance of these small slivers of the former cul-de-sac that is no longer needed by the city at the end of Russell Terrace. So if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them, but it's pretty straightforward compared to the plastic bags.
Could I make sure I get that language exact? It's after, it says drainage easements and
public infrastructure.
You need a second on that? Who's seconding the?
Is that as an amendment, or what are we doing?
So I'd like to amend the orders, that first one, by adding those 3 words.
Second.
Thank you.
Is there a second?
I'm sorry, I missed.
Second, yeah.
Vote on the amendment. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Anything else on that? The vote as amended?
Motion to approve.
vote is amended. Just for the record, so the second on the collective. Thank you.
We need a motion to approve, don't we?
No, mine was on the amendment.
Yours was on the amendment.
On the amendment to add those 3 words. I did not second on the motion to approve.
Who did second on that collective?
I don't know. I could do it now. I second now.
That'd be great.
So there's a second. So motion as amended has been seconded.
Okay. Motion as amended?
Aye.
Aye.
All right. Any against? Any roll call?
The motion as amended, collectively all 4. Councilor Junta?
Yes.
Councilor Harquist?
Yes.
Councilor Herzog?
Yes.
Councilor Kinsey?
Yes.
Councilor Tantar?
Yes.
Councilor Vogel?
Yes.
Councilor Cameron?
Yes.
Councilor Connell?
Yes.
Councilor Cronin?
Yes.
Councilor Eigenman?
Yes.
Council President O'Brien?
Yes.
Nothing else to report.
Public safety?
Yes, Mr. President. Motion to remove item 1, ovarian cancer walk.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Go ahead.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Motion to remove item 3, River Run Half Marathon and 5K.
Second.
Motion to approve.
Second. Motion to remove, it was second, all in favor?
Aye.
Vote. Motion to?
Motion to approve.
Second. Council Cronin?
This is one of the longer and larger races in town. As such, Public Safety Committee put a couple of caveats on this event, even though it doesn't fall under our new ordinance. And those were agreed to by the race organizers. And the race will start at approximately 9:15. There'll be no amplification or electronics before 9 a.m. There will be continued access into Riverside Cafe parking lot, and they will coordinate with the harbor master since the race is starting down in Cashman Park. And it was a 3-0 vote to support this.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Next.
Motion to remove item 4, pumpkin patch.
Second.
All in favor? Opposed?
Motion to approve.
Second.
That's number 3. Okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay.
Item number 5, motion to remove northeast. Thank you.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Item number 6, motion to remove Olive Street parking.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Motion approved.
Second.
Second. Read it, please.
This is Section 13-168, parking restricted on certain streets. No person shall park any vehicle in following streets or portions thereof. Olive Street, extent on the easterly side from Merrimack Street, running northerly for a distance of 40 feet. Submitted, Councilor Cronin.
Keeping this short, we had a neighborhood meeting on site in which the neighborhood was leafleted by myself, and I was also put out in email form. The neighborhood strongly felt that there were traffic safety issues on that road, and there were many discussions that I won't bore you with, other than one of them was one way. We decided a middle of the road right now would be just to remove one parking space at the bottom of Olive Street near Razor's Edge. There was one person that was not happy with the removal of one space, but the rest of the people there were clearly in favor of it, and I'm urging council approval.
Any further discussion? Roll call. Councilor Herzog.
Yeah, Mr. President, if I could just direct a question to the chair. Just for clarification's sake, the ordinance is specific that no parking is allowed on the easterly side extending for 40 feet. It doesn't specify where on the easterly side. So perhaps if you could just work with the clerk to make sure it's clear in the law where that one space is.
If I may. With all due respect to Councilor Herzog, it says on the easterly side from Merrimack Street running northerly for a distance of 40 feet, and it is Olive Street, so I think that's pretty...
Missed over that. Thank you.
Wouldn't it be southerly from Merrimack Street?
No, the northerly side.
Northerly side.
I'm sorry, the easterly side.
Easterly side.
Yes.
From Merrimack Street.
Running southerly.
South, goes southerly.
I think
It would be running towards High Street, which
On the
is south.
on the easterly side from Merrimack Street.
running.
That's heading
No.
south. I'll look at my map.
He's coming down the street, I'm going up the street. That's the...
I'm going up the street.
No,
south.
Doesn't matter which way you're going.
I think we're saying the same thing, but it does run southerly. But you mean going up Olive Street from Merrimack Street for 40 feet?
That would be in the southerly direction.
That would be the southerly direction.
Yes, southerly direction, but it's the easterly side of the street.
We should just change the
Actually, it does go north.
And northerly, southerly.
Well, just point of order here, if I may. I mean, yes, we aren't really concerned which way the street is running. We're concerned on which side of the street is the parking restriction, and it's the easterly side of the street.
Roll call, please. No, Council Vogel.
With all due respect, seriously, if this doesn't make any sense at all. On the easterly side of the street, if you're going from Merrimack up Olive, you're going south. You may be going uphill, you may be going towards High Street, but you're heading south.
Correct.
So this says northerly. If you did northerly from Merrimack Street, you'd be crossing Merrimack Street and going into the...
Oh, okay, I'm sorry, I'm looking at the easterly side. Okay, I'm sorry.
word northerly needs to be changed.
northerly to southerly.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Face away in front of Racer's Edge, right?
Correct.
That's all I need to know. Let's vote on it. Jesus, this is unbelievable.
There's a motion. The motion on the floor, point of order, to amend.
You have a motion to amend?
Motion.
To amend to
Second.
northerly to southerly.
Second.
Jesus. All in favor? Aye. No, I'm opposed. Jesus. Not to waste time on it.
Second.
Roll call.
It's a motion approved as amended. Councilor Junta.
Yes.
Councilor Harquist.
Yes.
Councilor Herzog.
Yes.
Councilor Kinsey.
Yes.
Councilor Tontar.
Yes.
Councilor Vogel.
Yes.
Councilor Cameron.
Oh, yes.
Councilor Connell.
Yes.
Councilor Cronin?
Yes.
Councilor Eigenman?
Yes.
Council President O'Brien?
Thankfully, yes. Anything else?
Yes, motion to remove item 7, intermunicipal harbor services agreement.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed?
Motion approved.
Second. Any discussion? Councilor Cronin.
Mr. Lombardi can respond to this. All I would have to say is that it came out of committee 3-0, and the city may be working on one with Newbury. This is just Salisbury, Amesbury, and West Newbury.
State statute allows mutual aid agreements between fire departments, police departments. It doesn't allow for the same for harbor masters, so we had to draft an IMA that allowed essentially the same idea to work for administering mutual aid with Salisbury and Amesbury. The executives from the other two communities are in favor of it. It's been vetted by the city solicitor, and I believe the Salisbury Board of Selectmen voted in favor of it. And it'll help. It's something that the harbor masters themselves have come up with. They've been asking for something formal to be in place so that the city's liability isn't an issue when they're responding to a particular incident on the water.
Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
This motion to approve harbor master contract. Councilor Junta?
Yes.
Councilor Harquist?
Yes.
Councilor Herzog?
Yes.
Councilor Kinsey?
Yes.
Councilor Tantar?
Yes.
Councilor Vogel?
Yes.
Councilor Cameron?
Yes.
Councilor Connell?
Yes.
Councilor Cronin?
Yes.
Councilor Eigenman?
Yes.
Councilor Bryan?
Yes. Anything else? That's it. Public utilities?
Yes, Mr. President, motion to remove number 1, the stormwater permitting update.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Motion to receive and file.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Anything else?
Not tonight, thank you.
Go to the order. The motion to adjourn.
So move.
Aye.